firsthand experience with universal school meals. So welcome. Scott Fay is our first speaker. Scott, if you want to just introduce yourself, and then we'll quickly go around the table and introduce ourselves so that you all know who we are, and then we'll proceed.
Great. My name's Scott Fay. I'm the Child Nutrition Director for the Essex Westford School District, past president for School Nutrition Association of Vermont, and a resident as well of Essex Junction.
Representative Templeman, you want to start? We'll go.
David Templeman, Orleans 3, Brownington, Barton, and Westmore.
Charles Wilson, Caledonia 3, which is Linden, Sheffield, Wheelock, Sutton, and Newark.
Henry Pearl, I represent Danville, Peacham, and Cabot.
Jed Lipsky, represent Lamoille 1, Stowe.
Rodney Graham, represent Orange 3, which is Williamstown and Chelsea.
David Durfee, Shaftesbury, Glastonbury, Sunderland, and Bennington 3 district.
Esme Cole, Windsor 6, Hartford.
John O'Brien, Windsor Orange 1, which is Royalton and Tunbridge.
Mike Rice, Bennington Rutland District, Danby, Dorset, Landgrove, Mount Tabor, and Peru.
Josie Levitt, all of Grandal County and part of West Mountain.
Great.
Scott, I know we've got 4 of your colleagues, and they can introduce themselves when they come up one by one, but I also wanted to ask the other guests we have in the room today if they would just let us know who they are. Maybe starting over here in the corner. Yeah.
I'm Emily. I'm a current student at Middlebury College.
And I'm Charlie also.
Great. Nice to have you.
Josh Morrill with ABC.
All right, take it away.
It's nice to meet you all. I wanted to just start by letting you know that, yes, we're in our first state-funded year of universal meals, and we're really excited about it and wanted to just bring you some stories, what we're seeing, what's really working. Again, my name's Scott Fay. So thank you, first of all, for universal meals and the work that was done last year to make that all possible for this year. I couldn't be more proud to be part of this amazing change and be here with you all to share the stories and my colleagues as well. Over the past 2.5 years of universal meals, I've seen our program turned on its head, basically, for the better. More kids are eating. We're scratch cooking with Whole Foods. We have a baker on site who's baking fresh sandwich loaves, muffins, breakfast breads. We're processing local foods. Actually processing local beef into meatballs every month for all of our students, something we've never been able to do. We're purchasing more fresh fruits and vegetables. The stigma around school meals is all but gone, and we are able to entirely focus on high quality meals. We're no longer scrounging for money through snacks or a la carte programs. Everything we do is focused on a solid breakfast and lunch program. Every kid that comes into our cafeteria gets access to the same thing. There's no second tier. It's all the same. I shared, and hopefully you were able to see, a photo of one of the things that I'm most proud of with this change. And it's Essex High School's cafeteria each morning. So before universal school meals, that room was literally a ghost town. Kids would just come into school, they go to their class, not really interested in coming to the cafeteria. Fast forward to today, and you can see the room is bursting with kids. They're sharing a meal together. It's a happy, beaming community where almost half the kids in the school choose to eat breakfast. And they come in, they go to the cafeteria, they eat together, and that photo that's what our equity in our cafeterias looks like. Again, everyone has access to the same thing. And it's a prime example of what supporting our students' social emotional well-being looks like. Ahead of today's meeting, I talked to some stakeholders across my school community, and I just really wanted to share some of their thoughts with you guys. So I talked to Sam, who's a 9th grader from Essex High School. And he says, personally, I think the school community and vibe is much more positive now. It's important that everybody feels welcome and safe in school. And I believe Universal Meals has only made this better. I talked to Principal Briggs from Essex Middle School. He says there's no longer a stigma to eating school meals provided, and certainly not for any child whose circumstances lead towards free and reduced meals. And according to students, the overall taste of the food has improved. And that comes from our ability to buy better ingredients. We have more cash flowing in. We're buying local, we're buying better quality food. I talked to a principal from Hiawatha School. This is a K-3. And she says, we have more kids eating breakfast and lunch than ever. Our students eat a variety of foods and are trying new healthy options. This year, I've heard students complimenting our food. One said, this recipe my mom should use. Another principal said, one positive difference I've noticed is that more students are accessing breakfast, which helps them get through their morning with healthy food in their bodies. Miss Osborne, a fourth grade teacher, said, with access to food for all of my students, I've seen an increase in healthy eating habits. In the past, some students brought in snacks and lunch from home that had minimal nutritional value. They often had ingredients that were more detrimental to a student's ability to focus and be alert. Now, so many students access school meals provided by the school, and I can see the benefits of how it impacts their day in a positive way. And then a nurse from Essex Elementary who said, I've seen a profound effect on students' mental health with free lunches where students are excited to eat at school and do not have to worry about having enough food while learning. The physical benefits of having access to meals at school is present and expected, but it's been wonderful to see the social and mental health benefits as well. I'm noticing students have more energy and being excited about meal times. It has brought the EES community together. And then for those of you who don't understand why it needs to be universal and why it doesn't work when it's only for those in need, it's about providing nourishment with dignity. It's about investing in the foundation of learning and ensuring students are ready to learn. Sources we're already investing in education in Vermont. It's about providing every student with equal access to the same things while they're at school. It's about recognizing school nutrition as an integral part of education system and knowing that every Vermont student has access to healthy breakfast and lunch while they're at school. Universal meals are an investment that is impacting the education system in critical ways. We just need to make this permanent with funding from the top of the education fund. Now is the time to make universal meals permanent in Vermont. Every student, every meal, every school.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah.
And we've got, I think, about 10 minutes for each. That's some time for questions. So, Representative O'Brien?
As someone who did a lot of stuff. We haven't talked about on a pay basis, our faculty, staff, parents, visitors, how does that work with universal school meals?
So the free meals are for kids,
Right.
students only, and I think schools are probably doing it differently. What we've done at Essex Westford is every adult has an account, and we ask them to deposit money in their account so that we're not transacting money during the school lunch. It just takes up time and it's just awkward. But we do have a substitute here and there, a parent that might come in, and we just accept it. It's pretty simple, but it's easiest if we don't have to handle cash. It's been one of the great parts of this whole thing is not having that bulk of cash and checks and just the lines this year which is the first 3 years of universal meals being paid for by the federal government. We were able to use tick sheets where we could just count off the number of kids coming through. This year we have to run them through our point of sale so that each transaction is attached to a student, which takes time. It actually slows things down a little bit, but nowhere near the extent of here's a check, here's $5. It's just been because our volume is up so much more than it was I think that it would just bog everything down. So it's been a really big plus is not having to deal with that.
Have you seen increased participation by staff and faculty?
By staff and faculty, I think for them, it's about the same. For our students, our breakfast participation for the district was in the 30s and is now over 50%. And then for lunch was around 50% and we're over 70 now. So we've seen a bigger increase in breakfast participation overall, but definitely an increase in both breakfast and lunch since this started. And it's going up a little bit each year. So the state has modeled districts with CEP, which is another way this works. And it shows a yearly progression of, increased participation. So I think we're kind of at the beginning still of that curve.
Representative Levitt.
Can you just tell me how much, what your percent of local foods well, I don't know how you do it, but what's your percent of local foods that you buy?
So we didn't make the incentive, there's an incentive now, so we're all really tracking that. And so last year we didn't make the cut line, we were at 12%.
Okay.
But we have relationships with farmers now that we never had before. I have a beef farmer who comes in every Wednesday with 180 pounds of beef.
Wow.
And I would like to get up more than that, but that's what he can provide right now. So I think we're all buying more local and that's what direction we want to go. Our producers are still trying to catch up to that, right? We're still trying to scale up to what is our need in terms of school food. And then farmers, producers figuring out how to meet those needs. But 2 years ago, I couldn't get any. Now I'm getting this, which is quite a bit actually. And I just see these things opening up over the next several years.
So what percent is that?
12% is what I got to last year of my total purchases. We purchase about $1 million worth of food a year. So this is about $120,000 locally.
Representative Rice, and then why don't we plan to have the next colleagues come.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Sure.
Do you do any education around that local food buying in the schools about sort of where food's coming from, who the farmer is, where that?
We try to build into our menus. We certainly put up on all of our menu boards. We're trying to connect more with classroom teachers to really show that. But everything we can do on social media and then on our menus and with signage through our cafeteria lines. We have Chapin Orchards is a apple producer right in Essex. We always put their signs up. We have La Platte River Beef is who we're purchasing from. We put their signs up. And I think we're learning too, how does this, what's the best way to get that messaging to kids?
Yeah, is that something that you would welcome support around or structure around that sort of delivering that?
Yeah, I think it's really important that kids know where their food is coming from. And the more we can connect because I'm a bigger district, we're probably a little more resourced than some smaller ones. They may not have time to connect all those things. It's getting the purchase, then doing the production, processing local ingredients, and then the signage and everything on top of that. I think schools would definitely appreciate that support.
Good.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chair. Hi, everyone. I'm Harley Sterling. I'm the school nutrition director for Wyndham Northeast, which is Bellows Falls area. I'm also the current president of the School Nutrition Association of Vermont. So I spoke earlier in House Ed, and I described the work of doing school nutrition as kind of like you're in the business of trying to please everyone a little bit all the time. And as I'm sure you can relate, that's a pretty impossible task, just getting people to even decide what they want and agree on that, let alone trying to achieve it. So I had made a joke about, we had, I think, 17 texts between our school admin team on Sunday night about whether or not to call a snow day. Back and forth deliberations, pictures of the snow day calculator. We ended up having a foot of snow half of our roads were closed. 2 of our schools lost power. Point being, sometimes things that are kind of obvious and no brainer. It's hard to find a lot of accord and agreement even in schools on things like that. So, when I reached out to our school stakeholders, staff, administrators, parents, and some students to try to get feedback and stories about the universal school meals that we've been doing, the resounding support that I received and their sentiment toward the universal school meals and our local, all of the local purchasing incentive bill that we've been doing too, it just kind of gave me pause. Not only was everyone, all 100% of the feedback that I received very positive, but I got it very quickly, even from school administrators who have a lot on their plate. So I shared a couple stories, form letters I received from principals, many from nurses, students, parents, and grandparents, which is something you'll hear stories from my colleagues here as well. The first story I got was from one of my own school nutrition site managers who had talked about right before she got my email, the first thing she saw was a kid who brought a lunchbox in. So bringing a lunch from home still, and all that was in that lunchbox was a package of Swiss rolls. I got dozens of stories from parents and teachers about the increased cost of groceries and the burdens that are on Vermont families right now, and how sadly food can sometimes be the bottom of that list with all the other things that they have to pay for first, and how nutritious food can even be lower on the list when the priority is just making sure that there's something on the table for everyone to eat. A friend of mine who's a kindergarten teacher at one of our elementary schools and a former nurse told a pretty profound story about when she started at that school. If a kid didn't have money to bring in to pay for their lunch, they were given a cheese sandwich with a glass of water. So for her anniversary, her husband and she decided to buy a mini fridge as their anniversary present so she could bring it into their classroom and stock it with food for the kids, so that no kid had to go through the day, with the humiliation of not having an adequate lunch, but also having to eat a meal like that in front of their peers. And everybody knew what that kid's problem was. One of my managers sent me a picture of a text from a social worker at DCF from the summer when we were doing our meal kits that had a lot of local food in them. And the social worker had volunteered to bring it to a family that they knew didn't have reliable transportation. And in this case, it was a grandfather who was the primary caretaker of 2 grandkids. And they said that when they brought them the food that he just broke down in tears weeping. And it was such a moment for everyone there that they were still talking about it the next day when my worker had run into them. So just lots of consistent stories that I think you'll hear from all of us about how with the onset of universal school meals, our kids are coming to school just ready to eat and ready to learn. It's changed the whole school environment, like Scott said. Similar story, similar picture in our high school cafeteria in the mornings, just students who, probably couldn't care too much about breakfast in the past. It's now just such a great vibe. They're all rushing to school, they're socializing. It's a welcoming and engaging beginning to the day when, I can remember as well as anyone else, I'm sure, the anxiety that goes through your mind at different times and the cruelty of adolescence and being in high school and being nervous and everything you're going through, to see these kids getting together and eating breakfast together a lot of the time has been just a remarkable shift, seemingly overnight. A teacher wrote to me and told me when she's dealing with behaviors or some other things in the classroom that the first question she no longer asks herself is this kid just hungry? She can cross that off the list. They know that, okay, there's something else going on. And then lots of really cool stories about how kids eat new foods when they are trying them in a social setting. just how engaging food is and being around your peers and being in school. All of these kids are eating new things and they don't have to worry about the old stigma of like, oh, that's school lunch. That's only for those kids. It's universal, and now everyone is kind of finding a seat at the table with that. Principals are no longer the debt collectors. That's a big one. So in the past, if a student owed money, that would often fall to the school administration to try to collect on that debt. In an age when we're so concerned about kids coming to school and the attendance, you know, not having to worry that you're the debt collector, and if a principal has to call home, you know, the families don't recoil thinking that they're going to come ask them for money that they may or may not have. It's fundamentally shifted that relationship so that principals don't have to spend that time and that stress being in those positions with families that they're trying to oftentimes get the kids to come to school. And then one of the most powerful stories was from a student who I've known since 5th grade. She was outside the high school nurse's office. I was going there to try to get some stories from the nurse. And I asked her if she was interested in helping me by telling me some stories about how universal meals had affected her. The student I happen to know has some remarkably unfortunate situation going on socially and at home, just really in a bad spot. So the fact that she would even talk to me was kind of a moment. And she talked about being from a split family where she and her brother had qualified for free meals all along, but step family that they sometimes live with didn't. And just the inconsistency and bouncing around put a lot of stress on the household and a lot of stress on her. And I thought that that was a lot of wisdom from a young student. But I went on to kind of ask her how the universal meals had been for her since it coincided with her coming to high school. So as soon as she was in high school, it was just like universal meals were on the scene. And she described like, no matter what's going on at home, no matter what I have going on, I know that I can go to school. And when I'm there, my most basic needs are going to be met. I tried to like see if like she wanted to talk about that through the lens of like, you know, I said, so you're saying every student should come to school and have the same opportunities, right? Educational or food. It's a nice thing about equity, right? And her words to me were, it's not just equal, it's about empowerment. I feel empowered to be more independent and get away from whatever may be going on in my life that's not the best. I can come to school, and the first thing that I know is that my most basic needs are going to be, I can take care of myself. I'm empowered to do that. And that one just stuck with me. What a great thing to give our kids going to school. I'd like to talk a little bit about local food because that's a big part of what I try to do with my program. I worked in restaurants when I was younger, and the first time I got to run a kitchen, I was really interested in buying as much local as I could. And one of the things I realized is that, you know, in the restaurant world, in the hospitality world, there's a lot of competition to take care of the people at the top. It's almost theatrical and ridiculous if you watch the cooking shows, the lengths that people will go to impress folks that can buy whatever they want to feed themselves. But if you want to try to really get local food on the menu and you want to try to get systematic about it, you have to look at the people who maybe that's the only food they're getting in a day. And if you talk about making systematic change at a school food program that could work in a small district like mine, and then maybe like a big district like Scott's, and then a even bigger district outside of Vermont, the scale is just remarkable. I say a lot that the United States School Lunch Program is the largest restaurant in the world. If you think about how many plates per day, you know, more than Starbucks and KFC combined. So doing what we're doing here, working with our local food growers and producers to try to make systematic menu changes that can work at other schools. I mean, you're talking about the opportunity to make a profound change. And this bill, universal school meals, the local purchasing incentive, the farm to school bill, all of these things have just been, I almost said game changers, but really try to avoid those cliches. It really is remarkable. And so I really do thank you all for your support with this. And I'll just kind of close by saying that like many Vermont schools, we're a border community, 2 miles from New Hampshire where I live. And being in New Hampshire for the last year where their universal meals have expired and going to work every day in Vermont where it's just the law of the land, the contrast is stark. And I can't tell you how often people come up to me in New Hampshire and are just like, how do we get this done for our kids? How do we do what Vermont is doing? How do we do what Vermont has done? I wish we had known. I wish we had done something sooner. And we should just all really be proud of the position we put Vermont in to be a national leader on this. And I'm really excited to see this continue and hope that we can keep inspiring change around the nation. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
For your sharing those stories and for collecting them and sharing them. And I wonder whether anybody has a question, Representative.
I'm just gonna tell you all, I'm gonna have the same question for all of you, which is what % of your food purchasing is local?
I love that question. I mean, nothing has been finalized yet because we've submitted our reporting to Agency of Education and we're all currently being audited.
Right.
But I'm hopeful that we will be at 27%.
Wow. 27, great. Very impressive. Yes, Representative Templeman.
Have you found, I mean, is it not a data-driven question, but have you found your experience one-on-one with children, this relationship with food, has it opened up possibilities in their minds about being farmers, working with food, working in kitchens? Like, are they inspired by this?
That's an interesting question. I mean, we're in a very rural community. A lot of them already are from farming households and families and backgrounds. You know, it's hard to convince a kid from a small town to be inspired about working in their school kitchen, you know? They really have their sights set on
Basketball.
Who knows? I mean, they kind of look at me like, oh gosh, look at that guy. But parents and teachers see how the shift that is happening concurrent with all of these things are just inspiring this to be really like a profession that, and nationwide this is happening too, the chef to school, farm to school movement. This is something people are proud of. Not as many kids out of cooking school are talking about going and working in Michelin restaurants. There's this romanticization about working in schools that I think is starting to happen. And I wish the kids would be more interested in that, but it's almost like they need to see it on TV or from someone else other than me.
Yeah, or maybe further curriculum can go into this, right?
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Representative O'Brien.
You know, since your job is selling this, right, to people like us. One piece of data that I think would really help is, and this is for all of you, is have you looked at, you know, a school budget or an SU budget, like what it costs for universal school meals or the whole school nutrition program? And any of these other sort of mainstays of our schools now, like sports, phys ed, math department, or whatever, because it'll get to the point where I think, do you not want sports? Like this is the same thing. It's something that really belongs in schools. And once I think people, if you can get it going a couple more years, I think it'll be part of the institution.
I hope so. I mean, I look at those numbers a lot because I have to make the case to my school board and my, business manager. The figure that was thrown out in the House Ed Committee earlier was that it's 0.15% of the ed budget.
Sports, I'd love to know, because it's.
My program is about 1% of our entire SU school budget. And one of the lines I use is like, if you've ever worked at a camp or wilderness program where you're outdoors, waking up and you're like kind of just grounded in reality, you know that the first thing you need to do is make sure those kids are fed before anything else happens. And so I try to get people to see it from that perspective, how important it is, how, like Scott said, if you want to get the best, you want this to run efficiently, the biggest bang for your buck is making sure the kids, feel nourished to start their day.
One more question, Representative Pearl.
Yeah, and this is kind of an overall question probably for everyone, but just wondering about, we hear of all the good things and it sounds wonderful. Is there any shortfalls that you guys are seeing or places where there is still students or anybody falling through the cracks that you guys have identified and feel like need to be addressed?
I mean, Carol's going to talk probably about how some more great things with this too. I mean, no bill is perfect. With local food, I mean, it can be a challenge. The Vermont definition of local is, anything from Vermont. So I'm down in Bellows Falls. If I buy from the Northeast Kingdom, that's local. But if I buy from my chicken farmer a mile away in New Hampshire, that actually counts against my local percentage. So, I mean, I would have 35% local if the things that we consider local were local. But it's splitting hairs. We're really just coming from a place of gratitude and we want to see this continue. And there's always going to be things to hammer out and fine tune down the road. But right now, this is as close to a win-win-win as I've ever seen.
Great.
Great. Thank you again. And who's up next?
Hello. My name is Carol Kent and I'm the school nutrition director for Lamoille North School District. I live in Huntington, Vermont, so I've got an hour commute each way and I do it because I absolutely love my community up in Lamoille and I love my job. And quickly I want to tell you a story about that question you asked about what we do inspires kids to go into this work. I was working as a manager at Richmond Elementary School and their kindergartner comes up to the dish window and my nutrition assistant is in there washing dishes using the hose and he says, "Can I have your job when you die?" Lots of ways that we inspire kids. And one is using that sprayer. So yeah, that just came right back to me. What we did last year, we were all in here and we were like, this is it. We're going for broke. We've got to put it all out there, let people know what's going on in the schools and how the system is broken and we need to change it. This year, we are in here saying, thank you, because what we thought was going to happen is happening. And it's because this body of lawmakers is brave enough to take that step and thoughtful enough to think through the process of how to do it so that is what we're modeling to other states, that it's sustainable in this method, that we're drawing down as much federal money as we can and requiring that. That makes a huge difference. What we're seeing, and I have a bunch of quotes too, what we're seeing is that the system is being transformed. It's a culture of inclusion and it's a culture of equity. It's fair. There's no more stigma. The kids are not afraid to get meals. They're not being shamed. It doesn't matter what the family checkbook looks like. We're not spending our time chasing down families for money that they don't have, which was a lot of our time was spent doing that in principal's time. That time we're now using procuring local foods. My district reached 15%.
Thank you.
Really proud of that and hoping to get a little farther. I met our beef farmer at the back door last week, and he's Turner Keith from Morrisville. We buy our meat from him. You're familiar. And he just said to me, "Thank you. This is so great that I know I have this account every month and I can bring it all to one location." And then I divvy it up and bring it all to the small schools. We buy all our apples from Burt's Orchard in Cabot. We also, Lamoille, one of the reasons I took the job at Lamoille is we have a sustainable agriculture program and we have a forestry program. So we buy produce from our farm. We buy all our maple syrup from our kids, our students who are producing it. And yeah, we market that and we highlight that. We also have a thriving farm to school program. So in answer to your question about inspiring kids, we take kids to the farm. They're harvesting and planting. They're seeing that produce in their taste tests. They're seeing it on their salad bars. One little first grader at Hyde Park Elementary School said, I want to be a farmer when I grow up. And it's like, you can be a farmer in high school. And they see that, and they see our farming students as rock stars because they're helping with the tours at the farm. So it's really very full circle and it's really beautiful. And our tech programs need that kind of marketing because their numbers have been very low in the ag programs. So we're working to build interest in our elementary schools. So when they get to high school, they can see that that's an opportunity for them. And so that's one of the really beautiful things that comes out of this Farm Fresh School Meals for All package that we're talking about. So we're eliminating stigma. We're feeding all the kids. They're ready to learn. We're getting our local produce in the schools. The kids know it. They're interested in learning more about how they can grow it. We are, just lost my train of thought, but we're just covering so much ground all at once. I'll read you a couple of quotes. I went and talked to some of my folks in the schools as well. We have our school nurse at the high school is also a basketball coach, and she is very vivacious. And trying to nail her down to get a quote was kind of hard. So I saw her in the hallway and I'm like, can I just videotape you really quick? Can you give me a statement about universal school meals? And she said, oh, universal school meals are the best thing ever. She said, I have so many fewer kids coming to my office who are hungry. And when they are hungry, I know we can just send them to the cafeteria. They know that they can get a meal when they want to. So she was all about it. I have, let's see, a fourth grade teacher in Waterville. My school district goes from Waterville all the way to Hyde Park and Cambridge, and we're pretty spread out. This fourth grade teacher said, most of my class eats breakfast, and the time directly after breakfast and lunch are the most successful times of the day. So we're hearing that over and over, that when the kids eat, they're focused. Less behavior issues, more attention. And a first grade teacher in Cambridge said, I've seen a huge difference in my students' food insecurity levels since we've implemented universal school meals. Kids know that each day they will have access to 2 meals, regardless of what is going on in their life. And I had the privilege of speaking with our middle school students. They were doing a unit on food insecurity in Lamoille County. And so I met with them to discuss universal school meals. And one young man bursts out, well, they make us go to school. They ought to feed us too. And I'm like, oh, you can be on our team. So, but we had 2 students who decided to go a little farther, and they wrote a letter to the legislators. And I believe Teddy has submitted that in our package for you to see. And here's an interesting story that comes with that one from our middle school student. This hits home to me because this is very rural Vermont, and you'll understand why. He said, I know it might not be what was intended, but personally, universal school meals have been a great help to me. I ride the bus to school, and it is a rickety 1-hour drive. I get car sick very easily, so it has been great to be able to eat breakfast at school after the drive instead of before, where there was a danger of me not keeping it down. Beforehand, I never even thought about eating breakfast at school and simply didn't eat it at all. Once the program began, I realized that I could eat in the morning at school for completely free. I know that this project was not specifically for me, but it has affected me, and I hope it can continue and that I won't have to go back to starting the day feeling sick. So this story is just from one student who felt moved to share it, but it's really repeated silently dozens of times in my school district, hundreds of times in the state, whether it's car sickness, eating disorders, anxiety, stress in the family, economic struggles, just forgetfulness. kids have a myriad of reasons why they don't eat. And these are all relieved because all of you, all the lawmakers here found the way to make education truly equitable for all Vermont students across the board. The reason we talk about funding it from the top of the education fund is something that was just mentioned, and I wanted to bring it up. If it's not built into the education fund, there's potential for us to be scrapping every year not to lose this. And we can't have our programs, we can't have our kids just balancing on the edge, not knowing if next year they're gonna have food or not. That's just unfair. So that's the reason we asked for it to be built into the top of the ed fund, in case that was a concern. But we have lots and lots and lots of stories that we could tell. And that's pretty much what I wanted to share with you, the successes and the journey. And I'd love to hear your questions.
Carol, thank you. And that letter from the middle school students is posted on our webpage, and you can see other stories there as well. I had a question. We haven't really talked about whatever federal requirements there might be today in terms of what is included in lunch. So understanding that we're hearing positive feedback on local ingredients, and is there any conflict there? I guess that's one question in terms of what you have to provide or what you have to purchase.
Time to,
Yeah,
it's,
maybe that's a conversation for another day.
Conversation, but yes, there are very strict regulations on what we must serve, right down to what color vegetables we need to include, how many times a week, how many ounces of protein, sodium levels, fat levels, et cetera. So there's a lot that goes into designing our recipes and our menus for sure. As far as utilizing local foods, that doesn't interfere at all. In fact, I find it makes things so much easier because if we're cooking from scratch, using local products, fresh from the farm, we control the fat levels, we control the sodium levels. We're not putting any garbage additives into our products. So they're much more nutrient dense and nourishing for the kids.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Good. Yes, Representative Teffelman.
I'm sorry, just a little side note. You mentioned controlling fat, and fat is being controlled. It's looked at as a bad thing that's being.
It's not dissected into good and bad at this point. I mean, we all have our own personal feelings on what fats are good and what fats are bad, for sure.
Okay.
At this point, we follow the USDA and the Health Association guidelines that tell us what kinds to use.
Do you have to follow that guideline?
We have to follow the guideline as to how much fat.
To be able to receive the federal funding, I'm imagining.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a formula, and there are all kinds of spreadsheets that we fill out. And the state will review us. Lucky Gretchen's going through that right now. And they do look at where our ingredients are coming from, all the nutrition labels, our recipes, and then we have this spreadsheet chart that breaks everything down into the components and percentages of fat and percentages of sodium and so on, and calories. It's pretty intense.
Representative Cole?
One thing I wanted to highlight in particular, especially for folks who are concerned about the cost of this program, which we've dissected already, it's very small in terms of percentage of the supervisory union's budget in total. But I think one thing that I've only heard mentioned just once or so in the variety of different witnesses we had is the access to federal dollars that we would be missing out on if we did not follow through with this universal schools meals program. And we do talk a lot about how money would come from the ed fund, but also I think really bringing forward like that that federal money that is at risk if we do not continue this program. And I don't know who's the best person to speak to.
Yeah, I'm probably not the most
Sure.
educated person on that topic. I can say that with the government considering using Medicaid as another source to qualify children for direct certified for free and reduced meals, that does bring the potential to increase our direct certification, which would, this is all really complicated, but I have currently 2 schools that are CEP status, so they all eat for free because their direct certification number is 40% or greater. I have 1 school that's just borderline. So with the Medicaid being another indicator for free and reduced meals, we have the potential of that school going CEP. That would make it completely funded by federal dollars. And then we wouldn't be drawing state money for reimbursement on that. So, yeah, we could be, yes, I can't say it eloquently, but yes, we would be leaving money on the table.
That really helps. Thank you.
Representative Graham.
Oh. Would it make it easier for, if you knew universal meals were gonna happen permanently, would it make it easier to work with local producers to secure, they might plant
Absolutely.
many pounds of carrots, maybe
Yes.
they put more carrots in.
Yes, if we can't count on the amount of reimbursement, as Scott was saying, it's his reimbursement has gone up because of his participation. So he can count on that money for his purchasing and contract ahead of time with farmers. If we don't know we're getting that reimbursement, we can't make plans and contract with farmers for our local produce and our local meats. So it's a win for the farmer if this is in place and we know we can rely on it.
Reliability.
For sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Sorry to interrupt. I need to steal Carol and Scott. Madam Speaker, request their presence. I apologize.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm the rookie here. I just testified this morning for my first time, so I'm going to probably do a lot of reading off my paper. So thank you. I am Gretchen Chaya, the School Nutrition Program Director for Windsor Central Supervisory Union, so close to Hartford. And I'm currently the president-elect of the School Nutrition Association of Vermont and a resident of Woodstock. So first of all, thank you for Universal School Meals. I'm truly grateful for this opportunity to be here today. And I'm going to share just some specific success stories that are happening in our district. Our district is about 1,000 students, so pretty small, but range from Killington to Barnard to Reading to Pomfret. So kind of a wide geographical area. And I've been in public education for 18 years. I was a PE teacher and health education teacher, and I managed the Woodstock Elementary School kitchen. And then 5 years ago, I became the director of the district. And I didn't have any culinary experience, but I spent a lot of time in school gardens and with students going on farm field trips, a lot of farm to school work. And I truly became inspired and driven to transform our cafeteria into a place where students could eat healthy school meals and connect with the Vermont agricultural landscape through food. While our mission and vision to feed students farm fresh school meals every day was well and good, it wasn't a reality because not all students could access the meals. The paid school meal system that was in place at the time created many barriers, ultimately limiting meal participation. The stigma was real, the fear was real, and the anxiety was real, and so were hungry students who couldn't learn. What Universal School Meals has done has taken down those fears, erased the stigma, and dissipated the shame around accessing food from our cafeterias during the school day. No longer do our students judge each other for getting food from the cafeteria or end up figuring out which of their peers is in which income category. We can all thank Universal School Meals for this and the major shift in how our students view school meals. It's the cool thing that kids want right now. And I think a lot of our colleagues have been talking about what they're seeing across our district. Teachers, school nurses, students, and administrators are praising Universal School Meals, especially with breakfast. And they are seeing decreased absenteeism and tardiness. And this is valuable because it's increasing classroom time. One of the school nurses noted, for many families, simply getting kids to school on time and getting parents to work is a daily struggle. Many leave the house without breakfast in the chaos of getting up and ready for an early start day. Free breakfast at school takes the pressure off the household to provide a nutritious meal so early in the morning. We know that many students, particularly middle school and high school students, will forego breakfast because they simply did not have time to eat at home. This greatly impacts their ability to attend and learn. I come from a district where pre-COVID, we served about 500 breakfast and lunch student meals per day. And during COVID and into this section of Universal School Meals, we are at 1,000 meals per day. Universal School Meals is a viable solution for increasing Vermont foods being used in school meals. And we are at 25%, hopefully after our audit.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's astonishing to think about how many meals our students are eating during their K-12 experience. I mean, I've been in this district for 18 years, and I've grown with these kids and been able to see the impact of not being able to consume to then the increased consumption of all these local foods. So it's investing in the Vermont kids, and it's investing in our local food systems. Over the years, we've built many relationships with local farm and food producers, and our longest standing relationship has been with Cloudland Farm in Pomfret. It's primarily a Black Angus beef farm with some small scale poultry and pork. But I've worked with Kathy Emmons. She's the farmer, and her husband Billy for over 10 years. And what started as a small scale project of farm field trips, taste tests, has turned into her being our primary source of local beef. And so we order 250 pounds to 280 pounds of ground beef per month, which equals about $10,000 per year in ground beef just from that farm. It shouldn't be overlooked that Universal School Meals is a catalyst for many school nutrition programs diving into their first relationships with local food producers. And it's also helped solidify those long-lasting relationships. I know ground beef is just one example. We are working with a farmer in Stockbridge, very small egg farmer. And again, it's like being able to communicate to the farmer how much you actually need, and then that farmer being able to have that product for you. So in closing, Universal School Meals has been a relief. I talked to some of the kids before I left yesterday, and one of the common themes is just that relief. I can just go to the cafeteria, I can get a breakfast, I can get a lunch, and I think that's, again, what my colleagues have been trying to get across, is that relief that children can be in school and access a free meal if they choose. So I'm asking the committee for your full support to make Universal School Meals permanent with funding from Top of the Ed Fund. And this will allow us to continue to help our students. In making Universal School Meals permanent, we'll continue to ensure that no student in the state of Vermont goes hungry during the school day or feels the anxiety or stress around accessing a school meal. So let's be champions together for our students. Seal the deal. Every meal, every kid, every day. Thank you.
Gretchen?
Towards the end there, you were mentioning, I'm a numbers guy. About the crunch them. So you were saying between 250 to 280 pounds of ground beef per month?
Yep.
For how many months a year?
I mean, we're not full months, but it's about nine months. I would say 10 months because we do a summer program too.
And that was $11,000?
Yeah, it's about right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Representative O'Brien?
I know we talked about this in here, but what's the drinks requirement for this? Because we've always wanted to get Vermont milk.
I know, we had that conversation this morning in the other, where we were, in the Senate Ag. We talked a lot about the milk being an issue. And again, the federal government does not allow the whole milk. So our milk, we live in Vermont, a dairy state, right? And we have to get our milk primarily from Massachusetts and Hood. And so it's a requirement to have the fat-free and the 1% milk.
Packaging too.
Yeah, under the national school regulations.
What do you have to provide for drinks?
We have to offer milk.
Any other?
Juice, you can do juice, half of the offerings at breakfast can count as part of their fruit. But other than that, we're not required to.
Sounds like
Is that, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
like Vermont cider potentially or something like that we could do.
Yeah, yep. If it meets the ounces for fruit, yeah, yep.
And then would it have to be packaged like in a juice
You
box?
can, no, you could package it to the ounces.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, that it credits.
Do the beverages have to be pasteurized?
Yes, I guess so, yes. I would say yes, yep.
For apple juice.
Representative Lipsky?
This is a question for you. Do we have more witnesses in
We
this?
do have.
We got one more.
We have one more.
We have one more witness and we have time, and
I'm fast.
well, you don't need to feel rushed at all unless you need to go, but if there are any other questions, why don't we?
Yeah, I'd save my comment for after.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, I closed the last one too, and I'm gonna kind of start the same way as I did in the other one.
Oh, hang on. There we go.
Good.
All right, are we good?
I'm Joe.
Yeah, we seem okay now.
All right, let me start like this. My name is, hi, how are you? My name is Erica Dolan. I am the food service co-director for the Harwood District, which ranges from Waterbury, which is Brookside Primary School, all the way to Warren, including Crossbrook Middle School, Harwood High School, Moortown Elementary, Waitsfield Elementary, Fayston and Warren Elementary. So it's a big range of schools. And I am a co-director, so I have another person that does the same job as I am and as I do, and we share our responsibilities. I'm originally from Brazil. That's where my accent is from. I became a citizen last year and I reside in Barrytown with my family. Thank you. I was very proud of becoming a citizen. I've been doing this job for 15 years now. And as a director, prior to becoming a director for the whole district, I was a director for the Waterbury Duxbury School District before consolidation. So I've been in that community for a long, long time. I call them my kids as my own child. So I'm going to start very quickly, just passing through. I testified in the Senate Education a couple weeks ago, and a question regarding how school meals look like came up. And so I would like to share how school meals actually look like now, and what are we investing our money on it, and how, there was a lot of questions regarding the back in the day, can I have a couple for them here too, please? Thank you. How, with the fear that school meals look like things from the past or some things from other states, maybe some pictures or news that we see that look like maybe perhaps not what we want to invest our money on. So this is what school meals look like at Harwood, but I guarantee that that's how it looks like in their district too. The middle of the program has a few quotes from students and staff that knew that I was coming here and decided to share their opinions. And, it was kind of hard to synthesize in small little bullets. Maybe some of them wrote a big paragraph or a big, big letter of their comments. So I kind of got snips of the best that I could share with all of you today. So I'm going to try not to repeat myself in all the things that you already know what is working. My story is not much different than their story. Our participation is increased. We increased breakfast participation for more than 50% since we started. We are at 14%. I scream in my office when we didn't reach the 15%, but we will reach this year. So this is great. It was a great exercise because, to be honest, before we bought it, we always bought a lot of local products and produce, but we never really quantify or we never knew where we were at. So now it's a very good tool to know every year that we can get better, and it becomes like a target. Like now we're talking about money and we're talking monetarily, and we have a great scale that we can say, this is what we want to achieve. And now we know how to achieve that. So it's a very good way to have the local incentive grant being tied in our programs. Without universal meals, would it be harder to continue to the local incentive grants because, and how can I say that? One thing ties to another very smooth and very strategically. With universal meals, we have more funds coming to our kitchens. With more funds, we can hire more staff, we can have more equipment, we can invest in things that perhaps we're not being able to invest before because now we have, one thing that I mentioned before, I have more time now to invest on the program that I had before because part of my job before was being the bill collector. It wasn't the principal, it was myself. So I understand very well how this works. From when I began 15 years ago, where the register person, you should be the one giving the child a little ticket to bring home and say, you have a negative balance, and shame that child in the register, which I was able to remove that very quickly in a way when I got my job. Well, I inherited a job, which was a bill collector. Now making phone calls and sending, back in the day it was phone calls and letters, physically mailing letters. So there was Thursday letters when I sent bills to homes, and then from that I went to the emails. And then as you can imagine, when the district becomes big and we have 600, 700 kids now with negative balance, sending 700 emails on a Wednesday morning, you spend 2 days trying to respond those emails back and, checking accounts and things like that. So it seems like an easy job, but it's really not. It takes a lot of time. So for the first time in a long time, I don't call free time, but I have time to sit in my office and say, wow, we can do better. And how can we do better? How can we work to make sure that the funds that we've been receiving are well spent to better, nourish our kids and to better provide to them. So we couldn't do that without universal meals. And with that saying, the local incentive grant, which I work in that committee many, many years ago, I remember the first meeting that we had regarding that, to how to have universal meals and how to have money actually hitting trace in the kids with local purchasing. And it was a dream so far away 10, 12 years ago. And finally we are here and we're living it and it works. So my ask is just like everyone's ask, to continue to thank you and to continue to fund that through the educational fund, to the top of the educational fund. I was gonna share one little thing. Give me a second here, because I don't want to take much of time. But one thing that we all talk about. Well, first I want to go back to your question regarding kids, inspiring kids. Many of our schools have junior Iron Chef teams, so we have kids that depending on each school does a little different. In our district, I'm going to speak from what we do in our kitchen. I actually I'm a coach for a junior Iron Chef team for 10, 12 years now. And every year I have kids in the kitchen being inspired by cooking or wanted to cook or just wanted, like the parfaits that we were serving this morning upstairs. the strawberries in the parfaits, I had kids cutting them yesterday. So they were assembling, they were putting the stickers on the cups. They were just like all over this. So they were surprised when I brought the strawberries out of the cooler. I said, this is what we're gonna do today. So we were able to host Senator Leahy's retirement party in last October in our school at Crossbrook Middle School. And some kids came from the high school to speak, just to give a little speech. And one child, it was interesting because he was a senior when he came in October, or he's still a senior now. He used to be one of my junior Iron Chef kids when he was in middle school. And he spoke about that. And I was like, wow, I didn't even think he was gonna talk about that. Like that wasn't like in my mind, and he's part of the kids that are coming out of Crossbrook that were part of my junior Iron Chef team are going to the high school and participating in the farm to school group that they have there. And just that cycle is continuing. So I guess it all depends, the program or interest the kids have, or I volunteer a lot of my personal time doing that. So this year we have 2 teams, and I said I cannot run 2 teams, but I can run one of them. So I have another person running another one. I couldn't take 2. I actually was asked to do the high school one too, and I needed to say no, for my own sake and my own personal life. So I just couldn't do it more, but I could do whatever I could do to offer to. So now I'm coaching 3 girls, and they are super excited. We put 2 teams together. We had 18 applicants for 2 teams, and we needed to turn kids away because we couldn't take it all. So they're interested. So kids are interested in cooking. I don't know if they're interested in becoming chefs, but they are interested in learning what we have to offer to them. And they want to be in the kitchen. They really want to be in the kitchen. At least in our schools, they think it's cool. Like it's not a thing that they see as a negative thing. And it will be great to know ahead of time if we have the funds. Yes. We were just asked that. There is a board meeting in my district tonight, and I met with the business manager yesterday. And she was like, so have you heard, like, what is going on? Because the budget is coming and they're pressuring, like, we need to write the budget for next, like, we need to know because our numbers are going to be so much different. Because the true reality is, if let's see the scenario that this is not funded, that it's over because we're thinking that parents are going to pay. Well, let me tell you, I'm going to become a bill collector again and nobody's going to pay that bill. It's just not going to happen. Yes, we're just going to get into a cycle that, we have kids in school now in 3rd grade that never pay for meals before. So some of those parents don't even understand the concept of paying for them. And I'm not saying that they're taking advantage of, it's not a system to take advantage of. It's just like it's not a system to take advantage of the math books that are being provided or anything else that they've been provided in the classroom. It's just what it is. It's the education that we've been given to them. And that's just part of it. So, okay, any questions now?
If you have time for a few questions?
I have time.
Okay, Representative Templeman.
2 questions.
Okay.
Regarding the percentage of local food in volume, or is it in price?
In price.
In price, okay. And then you mentioned 18 applicants for the junior chef program. And then the group you're leading is 3 girls. That opens up like a gender issue. Are boys?
Oh yeah, so the other group had boys. So in my case, the group that I'm coaching is just a solo A grade team. And the reason is because now the schedule for the middle school is different and they get released later. So it's the group that I chose end up like, we're just going to be practicing during the day in a block that they have specific for their A grade project. So those girls chose as their A grade project to be in the junior chef team, but no boys were interested to do that part of their A grade project. The other team that received all their applicants, I'm sorry, I should have said that. The 18 applicants was for our second team that is like more generic mixed grade team. And we have boys on that team, boys and girls. And over the years, I had a mix of boys and girls too. This is the second time that I'm leading a team with only girls in all the years that I did.
Representative Lipsky?
This is a follow-up.
Yep.
On, and it's really a comment for all the witnesses today and the work you do. Very compelling, quite overwhelming. I come at it from not just on this Ag Forestry Food Resiliency Committee, but I have spent 10 years of my life serving on rural school boards, including in the town I live in. And one of the most compelling things beyond all of the equity and the non-shaming but during those years and as I studied education and new knowledge about when different ages need to eat nutrition to allow their brains to focus and be productive learners, the overwhelming observation I've heard from all of you and testimonies from teachers, principals, students, how productive their learning time has been elevated as a direct result from universal school meals as far as an investment from a community to their children and to the future is enough of an argument to underscore the return on investment. With that said, and to David's point, I raised 3 sons. My oldest son is a warrior, my middle son is a logger, and my youngest son is a chef in your district, a place called Michael's, it's north of Waterbury.
Okay.
So
on the hill?
Michael's.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Sounds a good chef.
I know. He's wonderful.
Master for a long time. Anyway, thank you all for all your compelling testimony. Very meaningful.
Kids are lucky to have you.
Representative Cole?
Sure, I'll add one little anecdote to maybe, just further provide, I don't know, context and just, I did not graduate from high school very long ago. I'm a younger legislator here and the disparity, the stigma in the lunchroom was huge. Before this program existed, and I noticed so many kids just eating trash all throughout the day. And so I almost tried to take the universal school meals onto myself. And I solicited a grant from local grocery stores. And I would lug a fridge of and a blender too to make healthy smoothies in the morning. But just to see this take the place of something like someone needing to do that is awesome.
Representative O'Brien.
I have a funny anecdote. I don't know if you've ever been to the Vermont Farm Show. It's been canceled now because of COVID, but
many years ago,
right.
Yes.
The last time it was held, there was an Iron Chef competition between the House, the Senate, and the Agency of Agriculture.
Yes, my husband works for the Agency of Agriculture, so I understand that very well. Not me.
Not your husband. Right? The other thing was, I was really impressed the last time. It was probably a farm to school thing, but at this food club.
The food club's still very alive.
Yeah. And
correct.
It's great for both that program, but also I can see it dovetailing with universal school meals. If we can spread that idea to all our high schools, it would be great.
Correct. So it's been after COVID, of course, during COVID didn't happen. So some of the kids that are now in the club were my former junior Iron Chef kids or kids that came through my school, and they have been revolutionary at Harwood and, doing taste testing and really pushing into a lot of great things. They did a milk donation program last year because last year we were doing a little different program that we were serving all the kids, all the components at once, so they couldn't choose or refuse an item. So we're having a lot of no wanted milk. So then the kids figured out a way to what to do with that milk and donate, or, the non-expired milk can go to the food shelf, and they did all the coordination, and it was great. You know, this year that program of course doesn't happen anymore because now we are back to offer versus serve, which they can deny the milk if they don't want to take the milk. So they don't have to take it. We have to offer, but they don't have to take it. And, you know, so we don't have that wastage. But yes, the Harwood District has a very long, good history of their farm to school club, and it's very alive. I don't, you know, I oversee the high school, but my office is in the middle school. So my other director, his office is in the high school.
Well, thank you very much.
You are more than welcome.
Thank all of you.
Thank you so much. This is great.
Thank you.
We appreciate the opportunity.
We are done for the day. We've got more at 3:00. Any questions or comments or announcements? Mike?
I just wanted to put this thought into the brains of others before it leaves mine. It just strikes me the things, the piece around sort of not being able to offer milk because of the skim milk rule and things around packaging sizes, that seems like a fixable problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
It seems like in Vermont we could, you know, there could be a contract with a dairy farmer who does skim milk. Certainly there's a market for cream, you know, and things around just getting those packaging sizes into production for a big apple cider producer so that the red ounce containers would be, you know, it's like, that feels like something we could address and actually have those things to offer.
I'm sorry, can I just mention one comment on that?
Sit down.
No, but just a second. The cider is a great example because right now we can purchase cider either in gallons, like apple cider, or in 12-ounce, like little bottles, the same bottles that you can buy in any in any like convenience store. And it's very hard to serve that to the kids because, you know, we need to serve 4 ounce, our requirement is really 4 ounce. So 12 ounces for a child that is, you know, eating in 20 minutes, 25 minutes, it's really a lot of liquids, especially if they're taking milk. Right. So just, you know, visualize that time period that they have to eat with that. So we want to have that in the 4 ounces. Yes. Put that in the 4 ounces. Everyone is going to be buying that. Thank you. Sorry.
So it just, thank you very much. It strikes me as another thing that we could do if this funding is, you know, made permanent and everybody knows it's just going to be there every year. That opens up the possibilities for those kinds of things.
Yeah, so smart.
Yeah. Reusable packaging, micro pasteurization.
And also, if they know that the funding is there, I forget which one of them said it, then they can start working with farmers saying, okay, we've got the funding. Just like what Rodney said, now they can plant, you can start thinking about planting more carrots. If we need carrots, we're gonna need peas. We're gonna, you know, so it is a win-win. And I think you're totally right, Mike, that this is a fixable problem with the milk. And it's sort of surprising it hasn't been fixed yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am?
Maybe, I don't know how dramatic of a change this would be, but at least, you know, stating our support in some kind of resolution, maybe at least to start, so that we could get the word out there on a federal level of our support,
Right, well,
but also something like more local.
Yeah, I think there are two things. There's like
Yeah.
the federal rule and the no whole milk allowed thing. And
Yes.
Yeah.
that's a separate problem. But then there's also like, if that's going to be the cards that we're dealt,
Yeah.
it still feels like we should be able to come to a solution that gets Vermont milk into schools.
Yeah.
We don't have to buy milk.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
A certain amount. So it's probably hot milk anyway, right? Because it's
Right, it's
going to Boston.
And coming back up.
True, actually.
They may be going to Agri-Mart down in West Springfield.
Well, so, a lot of Vermont milk is borrowed, or this part of the state borrowed at the Hood plant, which used to be Booth Brothers.
Where's that?
Yeah, right in Perry.
Yeah.
Anyways, I was gonna say that over my years being here, we've sent many letters to government
I'm
about
sure.
whole milk
Yeah.
in school lunches. A few things state is slow.
Yeah, the feds.
Didn't somebody say that there was a chain that was there, it's like on a 10-year, the nutrition, was it Rosie that said, I think,
Yeah.
that it's on a 10-year and it's up, so there's supposed to be new nutrition guidelines coming out right off.
Connected to the farm bill.
Yeah, so.
So that might be good timing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I think, yeah, I mean, we can certainly send a forceful letter to our federal delegation, but, and the administration, but I think it's worth talking about what would it take to do something that, where we do have control. And that's an example of, I will say, the kind of idea that we might all want to be thinking about. I believe we will be getting the bill very shortly on universal school meals, and we'll have the opportunity to be thinking about how do we want to shape it as an ag committee, as a food resiliency committee, and other committees will also have access to it. They'll be looking at other pieces of it. That's I think where we can really have some, add some value to it. So think about that, and maybe this is one area where we can actually, do a little research and see what would it take. Great.
And I think, right, like chances are Bruce Brothers doesn't have a line for 4 ounce and Old Hollow or whoever, and cider, same kind of thing. So, right, potentially there might be incentivizing dollars that could come out of this committee.
That's a good idea.
To do that processing, yeah.
David?
Yeah.
Question? There's a talk about fat, and I am not a foodie person or very knowledgeable, but I have noticed over my years certain notions of diet or healthy eating have changed. And a few years back, maybe it was longer than a few years, there was this paleo thing, and fat or lard was an important nutritional component in that. Or am I wrong that
You're right.
there was a period when that was?
Well, I'm just I took a diet and nutrition class at the Edge a couple of years ago, and I had always been sort of a skim milk person because I have slightly high cholesterol. And they said, actually, full fat milk is fine for your body because it has less sugar.
Yeah.
And it's the sugars that cause fat. I mean, if you're, drinking 1,000 milkshakes a day, yeah, it's going to affect your cholesterol. But so that is an interesting thing that you're bringing up, because I was like, that's wrong.
No.
They can't. And no, it's right. That is the new research. And they're showing that full fat milk is actually better for you, ultimately has fewer calories and has more nutrients, has higher protein and less sugar. So maybe, I don't know what we can do with that, but I don't know.
I know that the sugars in skim milk, 0%, are actually added to it. It's not that there's more sugar, it's that they actually put in dry milk to thicken the milk so it isn't so watery. And the dried milk actually has like naturally occurring sugars in it.
No kidding.
Yeah. So you're trying to save, you're trying to do something good for yourself, and you're actually drinking a high.
It's got a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
Look it up. It's a lot of sugar for kids, and kids bounce off the walls with too much sugar. So we might be doing more harm than good.
Yeah, let's mellow those kids out with whole milk.
Full fat Vermont milk.
John?
David, do you know if this universal school meals, is there one proposal to really stick it in the ed fund as this continuing thing, or is there this sort of fallback to do another one-time ask?
I think that, well, I don't know, there may be more than one. I think what we're gonna be looking at is not a one-time funding, proposal, but an ongoing. Yeah, and so several, I know you mentioned, and several other people said, the reliability of knowing that it was going to not be ending, and for budgeting purposes. I mean, the school boards are meeting this week. They have to finalize their budgets, and they would like to know, I'm sure. And so this will be another year where they don't know, because we're not going to pass this bill out by the end of January, in any case. So.
What if, can I ask one question? Sort of this is a two-pronged newbie question. First is, what is the likelihood the governor is gonna say, yes, let's do it, or is he gonna or is he gonna come back and say, we're gonna do another 5-year or 2-year pilot? Is he gonna wanna continue that? And if we get the bill, realistically, when will we be done with the bill and voting on it? Because just sort of, can you walk us through that?
The second question, if we get the bill, any bill that we want to see enacted this year, we have to get it over to the Senate by a date that usually falls mid-March.
Crossover, that's the.
Crossover date.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's always a consideration. I would say typically a committee would want to spend, a bit of time, and I'm not sure I want to be any more precise than that, looking at a bill and making changes perhaps. And given that this bill would likely need to go to a couple other committees, we wouldn't have forever to spend on it. Be very vague there. And we've got, it's basically 6 weeks, 7 weeks or whatever, I guess, six weeks maybe of legislative time. So, but anyway, I don't know if that helps at all.
It does, actually.
As far as the first question goes, I don't know whether the governor has weighed in. Typically I will say that, yes, those are always sort of backroom considerations, but this, the House is its own, the legislature is its own thing. The House is its own thing, and we won't necessarily not do something because we believe that somebody else is going to stop it. So,
and this could be a chance to flex the supermajority.
There's always that. There's always that a date.
So what? I'm assuming a committee did this. What committee, maybe it was ours, set these criteria about the 15% local food and?
Oh yeah, that predates me, or at least was not a conversation that I was involved with. It would have come out of a bill. I don't know if either of you remember when that.
That's a federal bill, isn't it? Because if they do 15%, they get 15 cents reimbursed by the feds for the meals. And if they get to 20%, they get 20 cents reimbursed. That's what somebody said earlier in the week or last week.
We will definitely dig into that.
It's hard to keep up with if it's a CEP or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, the source of the funding, but I think we will discuss that in much more depth. Yeah.
Act 67.
Yeah.
So one thing we do know though, the governor has not funded this in his current budget, right?
Well, it wasn't mentioned.
I think it would have been mentioned, yeah.
And the budget address doesn't, of course, have time to mention everything, but I'm not sure.
Does the Ed Fund still have a surplus?
The Ed Fund does have a surplus, yep.
Okay, well, shouldn't we?
Sorry, politics.
That's what we do here.
No, we do policy, not politics.
We try to focus.
Well, politics get in the way of policy sometimes.
That's why I shut up.
Got it. I need to learn that.
Yeah.
So, Brad.
Finish.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, if there aren't anything else, then we can get ready for the floor, but yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say, I think last year when we passed the 1 year, this was, we had a chance to use ARPA funding.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to see how this was gonna work out.
Right.
Seemed to me like it's proven itself.
No, that makes sense. No, that makes perfect sense.
I would find it hard pressed that you won't have enough support.
Yes.
And I would be very surprised if the governor would not.
Yeah.
Right.
Kids, feeding kids.
Yeah.
Really top of the list.
And it just seems like it's all the kids are doing better. And there's fewer behavior things. They're just in the participation's great. I mean, surely these are probably handpicked folks giving testimony, but it was pretty consistent across the board. Be interesting if we each went back to our districts and asked some of our folks, like, is this consistent? I'd be curious. I have a feeling it is.
Yeah, I would certainly encourage anybody who wants to have that local discussion.
I had this almost like emotional epiphany, reviewing the testimony today. We're mandated with this task of increasing farm productivity. You don't do that without farmers, and we're going to have to find those farmers somewhere. This is an amazing way for us to touch these, the minds of these kids, to encourage them to enter into this food industry, farming industry. This could reshape Vermont, in a profound way. We're already trying to, reliven food and farming. This really could be the impetus for a movement. That's my little preach.
There we go.
Just
Mike, and then
I just wanted to say, the local food incentive was H106 last year, and actually Senator came through us.
okay, all right. So I just say before my time. We need to get more information on that. Jed?
Just to Josie's comment about supermajority and response to Rodney, I feel strongly that this is a nonpartisan, it is a tripartisan consensus, and it would.
I'm not suggesting we're.
Yeah, super positive about this initiative.
And this,
Our committee, but I think in the whole.
it does seem like a win-win for everybody. And it's a win-win for farmers if it's getting, more people funneling, more kids funneling into the ag program at tech schools. It's like,
Yeah.
we're feeding kids, and my work on the food shelf, we're taking the burden off of families who are food insecure because it's 2 meals they don't have to worry about, which means they can feed their kids dinner.
And it's a win-win for education.
Oh, yeah.
It's for real.
Yeah.
Thank you for all of your good comments and questions. I feel like I have a better understanding of the landscape and the pros issue and a year ago it was a slightly different conversation. So good. All right, we'll see you all tomorrow at 9:15. I'm sorry, 9 tomorrow, because we are.
We're doing with the Senate?
We're doing a joint hearing, a couple of joint hearings, and we'll be here in our room. They'll be in their committee room, and we'll be zooming in.
Okay.
We'll be here, right?
Yes.
We'll be here, they'll be there.